There are moments in life when the unimaginable happens, when your soul is tested beyond limits. I'm a new mom, just 2 weeks in with my baby boy who came early, fighting for his life in the NICU. Every time I see him there, so tiny and fragile, my heart breaks. All I can do is pump every few hours, each drop of milk a lifeline for him. Family is supposed to be our anchor, right? But at my weakest, when exhaustion and fear consume me, the one person I trusted the most, my mother-in-law, betrayed me in the worst way possible. She was stealing my frozen breast milk. Not just any milk, but the precious supply meant to keep my baby alive. And worse, she was taking that milk to help make soap to sell. Can you even imagine that sting of betrayal? It's not just losing those bags of milk, it's losing trust, love, and a tiny shred of hope when you feel so alone. Before we dive into this story, drop a comment below telling us which city you're watching from. Now, sit back and get ready. This is my story, a raw journey through fear, suspicion, anger, and heartbreak, full of unexpected twists and deep emotion. Walk with me through what it felt like to have my sacred trust shattered in the most unthinkable way, and the truth behind those stolen bags of breast milk. There are moments in life when everything changes in an instant, when joy, fear, and uncertainty collide in a way that reshapes your entire world. I'm a new mom, just 2 weeks into the most fragile chapter of my life. My baby boy, born far too early, is fighting for his life in the NICU. The sterile, humming environment of the hospital is now my second home. Every day is a battle, filled with hope and dread in equal measure. I spend hours in that NICU, watching tiny fingers curl around mine, marveling at every shallow breath, every flutter of his eyelids. But the hardest part is knowing that all I can really do to help him right now is to pump breast milk, over and over, through exhaustion and pain, to give him the nourishment he needs. That milk isn't just food, it's his lifeline. Back at home, the weight of this struggle doesn't lift. My husband and I are running on empty, trying to hold ourselves together while we keep vigil for our little miracle. That's when my mother-in-law arrived, a supposed blessing in a time of chaos. She came to help with the house, the cooking, to ease the burden of our sleepless nights. But beneath her cheerful offers and polite smiles, something simmered. Tensions I didn't fully understand at first. Our relationship had always been distant, polite but cold. I never really trusted her, but with everything else collapsing around us, I pushed those feelings aside. I needed the support, or at least the illusion of it. At home, the quiet rhythm of life felt fragile. I kept my breast milk meticulously labeled and stored in the freezer, a small but vital ritual that gave me a sense of control amidst the uncertainty. Yet, beneath the surface, a storm was brewing, one that would shatter my trust in the most profound way. This is where my story truly begins. It is a story of love, betrayal, and the desperate fight to protect what matters most. Stay with me as I walk you through the moments that changed everything, the heartache, the shock, and the strength I found in the darkest hours. And now, let me introduce you to the people who shaped this journey. Not just me and my baby, but my husband, whose loyalty was torn between his mother and his new family, my mother-in-law, whose unexpected actions would test every boundary, and the nurses and staff of the NICU, whose care gave our son a fighting chance. Their voices echo in every step I took, the quiet moments alone pumping, the tense exchanges at home, the unbearable feeling of betrayal, and ultimately, the raw courage it took to confront the impossible. In the midst of sleepless nights and endless worry, every ounce of breast milk I pumped felt like a precious gift of life for my tiny son. I had created a system, carefully labeling each bag with a date and volume, organizing them neatly in the freezer. It was a small oasis of control in a world that felt otherwise chaotic. Each bag wasn't just milk, it was hope embodied in frozen droplets. Then one evening, exhaustion weighing heavy on my body and soul, I opened the freezer to add fresh milk. And froze in disbelief. The count was off. 2 bags were gone. At first, I doubted myself. Could it have been a miscount? The relentless fog of sleep deprivation played tricks on my mind. But my heart whispered that something wasn't right. I asked my husband, my closest ally, if he had any idea of what happened. His confusion deepened my solitude. I wasn't imagining it. We checked everywhere: the cooler bag for hospital visits, the trash, even old milk that might have spoiled. Nothing explained the missing milk. The only person besides us with access was my mother-in-law. But the very thought of accusing her felt absurd and painful. Why would she do such a thing? Could paranoia and stress be clouding my judgment? Her dismissive response when I cautiously inquired only fueled my unease. "Maybe you miscounted," she said, with a sweetly condescending tone that made my skin crawl. The coldness beneath her words was more chilling than the hospital's fluorescent lights. I wanted to believe her, to quell the creeping suspicion gnawing at me, but deep down, my mama instinct screamed that something was wrong. More bags vanished over the next days, and with each loss, my trust frayed a little more. My internal battle raged. Was I being irrational, or was this a betrayal hiding in plain sight? My husband tried to stay neutral, throwing out hopeful theories about misplaced milk or accidental disposal, but his eyes never quite met mine with certainty. The tension in our home became palpable, the silence heavy with unspoken fears. My mother-in-law's presence, once a help, now cast a shadow over every moment. I found myself watching the freezer like a hawk, my heart pounding at every creak of the kitchen floor, every rustle of plastic bags. Through this turmoil, the NICU nurses remained a beacon of support. Their gentle encouragement and small acts of kindness sustained me. They shared tips to boost my milk supply, sensing the pressure I bore. Not just for my son, but for the fragile thread holding my family together. Yet, with every passing day, a new kind of exhaustion settled deep in my bones, the emotional weight of betrayal and suspicion. It was a silent war waged behind closed doors, where love battled doubt and desperation. This was just the beginning of a storm I hadn't anticipated, a storm that would force me to confront the unimaginable. By the time I finally decided to act, the weight of suspicion had transformed into a knot of anxiety tightening around my chest. I couldn't ignore the vanished bags of milk any longer, not when every drop mattered so much for my baby's fragile survival. Yet, confronting my mother-in-law directly felt like stepping into a minefield. I had no proof, only a gut instinct that screamed betrayal. So, I chose a path I never imagined I would: secret surveillance. Late one night, after she had gone to bed, I carefully set up a tiny, motion-activated camera in the kitchen, aimed squarely at the freezer. The delicate act of hiding it was filled with a dread I couldn't shake. Was I becoming paranoid? Was I invading her privacy? But despite every pang of guilt, I knew I had to know the truth, for my baby, for my sanity. The next day, I kept the milk bags clustered in one corner, placing a strip of bright blue tape on the top bag, a subtle but telling mark. If the tape moved, I would know someone had been tampering with the stash. My husband was skeptical at first, uneasy about the distrust growing in our home. But he agreed to let me proceed, sensing the toll the mystery was taking on me. Hours later, as I sat in a quiet corner of the NICU, nursing my baby's tiny hand, my phone buzzed with the camera's motion alert. I glanced at the screen, and my breath caught in my throat. There she was, my mother-in-law, moving stealthily toward the freezer. My heart pounded painfully, disbelief crashing into a tidal wave of hurt. I watched as she pulled out every single bag, stacking them on the counter with a casual ease that felt like a slap across my face. Then, the moment that shattered my world, she packed them all into a cooler bag. That piece of blue tape? It disappeared into the pack, proof that she was not just taking a few accidental bags, but systematically stealing my milk, my child's lifeline. My hands trembled as I recorded the footage, desperate to hold onto this truth in case she denied it later. The flood of emotions was overwhelming: anger, confusion, betrayal, but also a quiet resolve that I would no longer be a victim to this hidden theft. In the chaos of that moment, I called my husband with a voice barely above a whisper. "She's taking the milk. Right now." His disbelief was immediate. Hearing her name attached to such a betrayal hit him just as hard. He left work immediately, his protective instincts ignited. From my phone screen, I watched her hurry out of the house, cooler bag in hand. Then came the shock of seeing her car drive away, heading toward a nearby shopping plaza. My mind raced. What could she possibly be doing with my milk outside her home? My husband caught up to her at a small craft and hobby store, watching as she handed over the cooler to a woman we didn't know. The reality was sinking in. This was no simple, careless mistake. This was something far more disturbing. That afternoon was a whirlwind of confrontation, tears, and broken trust. My husband demanded answers. My mother-in-law's defenses crumbled under the weight of undeniable evidence. She burst into tears, not out of remorse, but out of panic, trying to justify her actions with a bizarre tale of making specialty breast milk soap with a friend. The shock rippled through me in waves. Stealing the precious nourishment meant for my barely surviving son to fuel a secret business. How could this be real? How could the woman we depended on betray us so deeply? The fracture in our family line was sudden and sharp. My husband and I, united in outrage and heartbreak, faced the painful task of deciding what this meant for our future, and for hers. But this was just the turning point. The moment my husband caught up with his mother at that crowded craft store felt like the breaking point of everything I had been trying, desperately, to keep together. Watching her clutch that cooler bag as if it were a lifeline, my heart pounded with a storm of emotions, rage, disbelief, and a deep, aching betrayal. The woman who had offered to help was now standing before us as the source of our pain. My husband's voice was steady but firm, laced with a tension that masked his own shock. "Mom, what is in that bag? Where is the milk?" he demanded, blocking her from leaving. Her usual polite composure shattered instantly. The defensive walls crumbled, replaced by tears, stammering, and evasions that only heightened the surreal nightmare we were living. She broke down, admitting in a trembling voice that the breast milk she'd taken wasn't waste or spoiled. It was being used in a secret handmade soap business with a friend. I remember how my stomach twisted into knots hearing those words, as if my body rejected the very thought.
Soap.
Breast milk.
Sold.
Her reasons spilled out in a chaotic tangle. She believed the milk was surplus, that our baby might not survive, and so she wanted to make something useful out of it. She thought she was helping, turning tragedy into hope, but all I could see was a monumental betrayal of trust. It wasn't her pain or confusion that stung the most, but the cold calculus behind her decision, the assumption that my baby's survival was a gamble and that my bodily fuel could be repurposed without consent. My husband was visibly shaken, torn between defending his mother and protecting his new family. His eyes searched mine, a silent plea for understanding as he wrestled with his own heartbreak. In that moment, the fragile boundaries of our family cracked wide open. We faced her with a barrage of questions. How many times? How often? Who else knew? Each answer was a mixture of half-truths and contradictions, her guilt peeling back layer by layer. At times she would lash out, accusing us of betraying her trust by spying, by not trusting her motives. But beneath the anger was a tremble of remorse, a deep sadness that cut through the rage. By the time we left the store, the air felt heavier than ever. My mother-in-law, once a guest in our home, was now cast into a shadow of suspicion and sorrow. We drove back in tense silence, each of us lost in our own thoughts, imagining how to repair a family torn apart, while trying to shield our son from this rupture. The nurses in the NICU became an unexpected source of solace again, their kind words reminding me that while betrayal shattered trust, it need not break the spirit of a mother determined to protect her child. And my husband, despite his own turmoil, stood firmly by my side, his resolve to shield our family from further hurt unwavering. Yet, as we closed that chapter of discovery and confrontation, a new one loomed. What next? How do you move forward when someone so close has crossed a line no one thought possible? How do you begin to heal amidst betrayal and profound loss? The moment my mother-in-law walked out of our home, the silence that followed was deafening. It wasn't just the quiet of a house emptied of a presence. It was the heavy silence of shattered trust, broken family ties, and a heart aching with betrayal. I sat in the kitchen, staring blankly at the cold, empty freezer space where my precious breast milk once lay, the very essence of my bond with my son, now violated. The weight of that betrayal pressed down on me like an unbearable fog. I struggled to reconcile the woman who had smiled kindly, cooked meals, and seemed to care for us, with the one who had stolen from us in the darkest moment of our lives. Every time I closed my eyes, I relived the horror of knowing that those bags of milk, my body's gift of life for my fragile baby, had been mishandled, sold without consent, and possibly used by strangers who didn't even know whose milk it was. My emotions swung wildly between anger, grief, and a deep, gnawing sadness. I wasn't just mourning lost milk. I was grieving for the violation of something sacred, something that felt uniquely mine, yet had been stolen and commodified. The trust one had extended to family was now a raw, festering wound. My husband, caught between love for his mother and his duty to protect his wife and child, was similarly shattered. I saw the exhaustion in his eyes, a mix of frustration, disappointment, and helplessness. We found ourselves in a silent solidarity, leaning on one another as we navigated this emotional minefield. His steady presence was the only anchor I had as I tried to keep my own resolve. The ripple effect reached beyond just us. My parents and his father, though geographically distant, weighed in with pain and disbelief. My mother's anger surged through every phone call, fierce, protective, and adamant that we shielded ourselves fully. His father, reluctantly aware of the magnitude of the betrayal, expressed a muted sorrow that spoke volumes. The family network was fracturing, and I knew the road ahead would be long and arduous. Among these heavy feelings, the NICU staff became my unexpected refuge. Their unwavering support, kind words, practical encouragement, and steady reassurance nurtured my battered spirit. I confided in the lactation consultant about the loss, though I withheld many details out of embarrassment and heartbreak. She offered guidance to rebuild my milk supply, tools to help me reclaim control over this crucial part of my mothering journey. In practical terms, we took drastic measures. A small deep freezer with a secure lock now guards the remaining milk. Only my husband and I hold the keys. The sense of paranoia is real, but necessary. We changed all the locks at home. A symbolic and literal shifting of boundaries meant to protect what's ours. These acts of reclaiming control are part of my healing process, a way to guard my baby's future and restore some peace amid chaos. But beneath it all lies a fragile scar, an aching reminder of how betrayal in the most intimate way can fracture not only families, but the very identity of a mother fighting fiercely to protect her child. I wrestle with feelings of violation and vulnerability daily, yet find a newfound strength stirring within me. This ordeal has deepened my resolve to stand guard over my family's well-being, emotionally, physically, and fiercely. After the shattering betrayal and the emotional upheaval, my husband and I found ourselves standing at a crossroads, facing the daunting task of deciding how to protect our family's future while healing wounds that ran deeper than we ever imagined. The woman who was supposed to be our support system had broken a sacred trust, leaving scars that could not easily be erased. Legally, the idea of taking formal action against my mother-in-law felt surreal. Cases of stolen breast milk are so rare and bizarre that we worried authorities might not understand the gravity or take us seriously. Yet we gathered every piece of evidence, the video footage, text messages, and witness accounts, just in case. Knowing we had that documentation gave us a small measure of control in an uncontrollable situation. Emotionally, it was perhaps even more complicated. Households ripped apart by betrayal struggle to find the balance between forgiveness and self-protection. My husband wrestled with conflicting feelings of love for his mother and fierce loyalty to his wife and child. I faced the crushing reality that blood ties do not guarantee safety or respect, and that healing sometimes means creating distance, even from family. Over time, we established clear boundaries. She was banned from our home, barred from seeing our son in the NICU, and cut off from updates except for critical medical news sent via text. We took practical steps to secure our home, changing locks, installing a locked freezer solely for my breast milk, and guarding that sacred space with heightened vigilance. These actions were not just about security, they were about reclaiming our peace of mind and our right to protect our child. The trauma echoed in other relationships, too. Our respective parents showed their support and pain in various ways, highlighting just how far-reaching betrayal can be within a family system. It became clear that healing would be a gradual journey, requiring patience, honesty, and sometimes the painful acceptance of fractured bonds. Seeking solace, I leaned on the NICU staff and lactation consultants, not only for help in rebuilding my milk supply, but also for emotional support. Their kindness was a steady light amid my darkest days and reminded me of the resilience a mother carries inside her. From this painful chapter, I have learned invaluable lessons about trust, boundaries, and the essential strength of a mother's love. I learned that protecting your child sometimes means standing firm against even those you once called family, that betrayal wounds deeply, yet can also awaken a fierce determination to heal and protect. For anyone facing similar trials, remember, your feelings are valid, your boundaries necessary, and your strength profound. Surround yourself with those who uplift you. Seek professional help if needed. Trust me, healing from such betrayal is a process, not a moment. As this story closes, the real journey of recovery and rebuilding begins. We focus on hope for our son's health, our family's future, and a new chapter where trust is earned and guarded closely. Thank you for walking this difficult path with me. If you've faced family betrayal or unimaginable trial, please share your story or thoughts in the comments below. Let's support one another in finding strength amid heartbreak.